All right, so I'm going to be doing a little early review. I've tried them on, but I haven't worn them yet, of these Chelsea boots from Australian maker Wootten Cordwainers out of Ballarat, Australia. This is in a crust chrome tan leather from an Australian tannery. I believe it's a Geelong tannery, Geelong. Could be wrong. And it is a hand-dyed, hand-finished leather. So they get the leather. Wootten Cordwainers gets the leather from Geelong, and then they will hand dye it into whatever color. So in this, it's their teak colorway. It is a whole cut boot, meaning there's only one stitch. So one piece of leather makes the entire upper for both pairs. It is Blake rapid stitched, which I will get into very briefly later. It's got full leather components with a steel shank. It's got some cork in there too. I'll explain that later. It's on a proprietary rubber outsole. This is an Australian rubber outsole. They can do Dr. Sole, but this is an Australian one. I wanted my pairs to be completely Australian made, support the Australian industry, yada, yada, yada. So what else did I want to talk about? Well, this is part of their Originals line. The Originals line effectively means that there's no customization. This is a ready-to-wear boot. It is completely pre-made. It's at a cheaper price, and they're released more in batches. Normally, Wootten does made to order, and they have like dozens, if not hundreds, of items with hundreds, if not thousands, of combinations going from leather to leather color to stitches to cap toes to models to outsoles to all that stuff, right? But this is in their Originals, meaning it's a complete pre-made boot, not an MTO, not a made to order. And it's a fairly nice situation they've got going on there. You know, they've got all of this customization, but you can buy some ready-to-wear stuff. I think more brands that do MTO should have access to that. I know Iron Boots out of China is trying to start doing some ready-to-wear stuff. You've probably heard that if you're in the Stitch Down Discord. And I think that's really smart because you'll have some MTO, but not everybody who wants a very basic version of the boot, like this, a brown Chelsea, wants to wait the 16 to 18 weeks that a Wootten Chelsea made to order would need. Meanwhile, this, ready to wear. This is on their Cambridge last, I believe, and all the details for any pair is on the sock liner right here. Jack original, model number 37, so this is the 37th pair. It is size 9E, and there's a number there. I believe that might be the number of their Cambridge last. I have another pair of Wootten's right over here. That's their Gordon boot, and it says Cameron because that's the Cameron last. Also an original, so I didn't customize it, made already. And it's pretty cool. This is a very nice fit. And in terms of fit, speaking of which, this is a 9. My Brannock, my heel to ball, is a 9.5. And that transfers to UK as an 8.5. According to the Wootten team, specifically Chris, she recommended I go a half size up from that. So a 9 in Aussie. On my Gordon original boot, right there, went true to size 8.5. Fits really well. A little snug, but not tight. Just like a little snug at first, but after like an hour of wear, feels wonderful. Don't even want to take them off ever. This is a 9.5. I mean, not 9.5. This is a 9E. And they say it's because it's got a more dressy look. And especially with it being a whole cut, fit is really important. So you gotta make sure you're not going too tight, and most of their customers recommend going half size up from your Gordon or Cameron lasted boots. So, went for that. Fits really well. This leather is quite nice. I used to be part of that big resurgence of people who only like veg tan or combo tan leather, but I've started really enjoying chrome tan again. I know there was a big wave like 2 years ago of we need it to be veg tan or it's not good, or saving the environment or whatnot. But chrome tan leathers are really nice. They have a lot of flexibility to them. They've got a really nice, easy, comfortable break-in. And out of my own personal experience, and this is not something that I am going to say is a blanket statement, but I have found that the chrome tan boots I have a more reliable grain break. Now, they're not perfect, but I have found that with veg tan leathers, I am more likely to have weird grain break. It's just my luck. I'm not saying this as a blanket statement that veg tan is going to have more grain break than chrome tan. I don't think you can really make a claim for that. It's kind of just luck of the draw, but I've been fairly lucky myself with chrome tan. And this is just a really nice boot. I'm going to go on a walk after wearing these for the first time. I did do a try on and they fit really good. My ball placement, the most important part of fit, is in a really good spot right where the boot is supposed to flex. And it's quite nice. I think my favorite part about it is that it's got a really nice curvature of the heel. I think there are too many boots, like the infamous Iron Ranger, that have a really flat back. It's got some curve, but it's mostly flat, and most of that curve is because I've worn this a little bit. You want this? A lot more curve, meaning my heel is not going to slip as much. And that's really important. It also looks better, I think. I think having the curvature of the heel looks really good on a pair of boots. And it's just great. So this is a Blake Rapid Stitch, or a McKay welt construction. As many of you know, the classic Goodyear welt, you hear it in every video out there. You take your leather upper, when you last it, you put it underneath, and then you stitch a welt onto that piece of leather, where you stitch your midsole or outsole, depending on if you have a midsole. And in that little void, you put in some cork, or wool, or foam, or whatever, a piece of leather. Then you have stitch down. That, you take the leather upper, you flare it out, you stitch that to your midsole, and then your outsole. And then you have a Blake stitch. Blake stitch is mostly on more Italian, European dress shoes. You get a lot of loafers in Blake stitch. And that's just taking your leather upper, you do fold it in onto your leather lasting board, which can be your insole, and you stitch directly through. So the stitch would be on the bottom, and as you can see, there is some stitching in there, right? That stitching goes right through a midsole and then an outsole. That would be on a Blake stitch. This is a Blake Rapid. So it's kind of a combo hybrid of a Blake and a Goodyear welt. I'm not going to say one is better than the other. I personally prefer a Blake Rapid / McKay. So effectively, you have that Blake stitch, and that mechanically fastens the leather insole to this leather midsole, this brown piece right here. But then you take that leather midsole and you use that as the welt, and you then stitch the leather midsole to your rubber outsole. So it's kind of a hybrid of a Goodyear welt and a Blake stitch. You have that flexibility of a Blake stitch, not having to bend a welt and a midsole and all the guts in between, while having a fairly resoleable boot. You don't have to do the Blake resole process, which would require you to have the right machine to stitch through that insole into the midsole / outsole again, right? In this case, you can just take off the rubber outsole and restitch onto this leather midsole. It's not, I don't know if it's as easy to resole this as a Goodyear welt. I mean, the Goodyear welt is like the easiest to get access to someone who can resole that. I would say then stitch down is equally as easy. It's to find someone who can do it, it might be a little more, depending on if you want it to be machine or hand stitched. I think Blake Rapid, you can probably find someone who can restitch this, but for most people who are big into this hobby, resoles are more for cosmetic reasons than they are for actual wear and tear. A lot of people, as you can see, have enough pairs of boots that resoling is not really a necessary thing. So it's more about looks and feel underfoot when you have enough pairs like this. And I'm quite excited to try this out. I'm going to go on a walk. I'm going to get some sun exposure and see how the break is on this leather. I have a pair of Wootten's in their Gordon boot right here, and I wear this quite frequently. It is also in their crust leather, but this is a natural crust. It's their officer boot, and it's got a nice heel cuppage. Very good everyday boot. This is going to patina very well this summer, and I love the feel underfoot. It feels really sturdy and robust, and I know I'm going to feel the same way with these Chelseas. I just know it because it's the same construction. A very sturdy leather block heel. There's leather stacks, real leather. And then instead of a welt, you've got a full slab of leather. And then this nice rubber. It's a nitrile cork, a nitrile rubber outsole. And there is actually some cork in here. What they do is they'll take this midsole, this brown strip, that's also its welt, and they carve a little hole right at the forefoot, right where your foot steps, into that leather, and then they put some cork in there. So you do have some cork in this boot. It's not needed for a Blake Rapid, but I like that they do that. And yeah, I'm very excited to try these out. I hope you guys enjoy and check out Wootten cordwainers. You can see the nice natural grain on this leather here. You know, you've got all the scars, and not scars, but stretch marks and creases and lines. This is a very beautiful boot. It's kind of hard to pick up the color, but it's gorgeous. It's probably one of the nicest Chelseas I've seen. And if there's anyone who knows how to make a good Chelsea boot, it's the Aussies. You know, I would have considered R.M. Williams, but they're just not for me. And I would rather support a smaller brand like Wootten over a large brand like RM. No shot at RM. I just haven't found a model that's really interested me, and I think this just feels a bit... I like supporting small brands over larger brands. I think most of my brands at this point that I own are larger or smaller brands, and I have very few small brands. Wow. I have mostly small brands. I have very few larger brands. I think the largest brand I have boots from is Red Wing, and I only have one pair. And bigger than that would probably be Grant Stone, and I only got 2 pairs of loafers from them. Got these, what I'm wearing right now actually, these bit loafers in a tobacco calf, and I've got some natural Chrome XL penny loafers. So those are like the largest brands I have as far as I'm aware. I have 2 pairs of Vibergs. I have so, you know. But smaller brands, Wootten cordwainers, check them out. I hope you guys like it, and I'll give a review later down the line of these well-worn. Same thing with my previous video of the Ken Diamonds and the Onderhoods. I actually have both of those. Here's the Onderhoods, and the Ken Diamonds are under there. Both being worn. Love them, wear them. The Ken Diamonds are really good for when my knees hurt. You know, I've got some bad knees, so the wedge sole is great on that. Anyways, Wootten cordwainers, check them out.